Here go part two of my rant, and I really need y'all to pay attention to this. I just said this shit in my last video. I need you to pay attention to this.
And of course, another bizarre aspect to this whole Ebola deception is the zombie connection. Yes, zombies. Unfortunately, Ebola has been associated with zombies by the media, and the whole zombie phenomenon. It is now connected. So you have to ask yourself, why is Ebola being associated with zombies? And then ask yourself, how perfect is the timing considering we have a rabies Ebola vaccine on deck being developed? Rabies being a zombie-like symptom. Yes, rabies can be best described as a zombie-like symptom. Then also take into account all of the zombie programming we get on a daily basis, the real-life cannibal zombie attacks we had in 2012 that was unexplained essentially, the government and FEMA themselves conducting zombie drills, and the Pentagon themselves having Conplan 8888, an official government zombie plan document.
Yes.
And you realize there is something very, very strange going on here. Yes, rabies Ebola is just so happens to be what makes up the so-called rage virus in 28 Days Later, a zombie Ebola movie. You can't make this up. Again, there's a reason for the zombie programming that we've been inundated with for the past 10 years. And now all of these vaccine and zombie and disease movies, World War Z, I Am Legend, Contagion, they all have the same common thread, right? The government will save us with a vaccine and zombies, and we're going to eat each other like zombies, right? 28 Days Later. I Am Legend. And there's TV shows like The Strain, and this other show where the ship and a global pandemic occurs on TNT. It goes on and on. What do you think all of this programming is for? The zombie craze and the Ebola, this whole Ebola campaign, is connected. Oh yeah. Some of you guys heard about it. The so-called Ebola zombies resurrecting. Major publication in Liberia speculates Ebola is US-funded bioweapon, dead now resurrecting like zombies. Are you kidding me? The point is to connect Ebola with zombies and to program us further. Washington Post, headline here, no, Ebola isn't a zombie virus. Oh, case closed, nothing to worry about. Washington Post, CDC says no zombie apocalypse, no Ebola zombie connection. It's all good. Don't worry about it, guys. Right here, headline, nice little zombie picture, right? This story and headline has gone viral. All over social media, all over Twitter, mainstream media, you name it. You think that's by accident? It's all by design. This is all about the connection here, guys. Are you not getting it yet? Okay? Look at this. Ebola zombies. You can find a million articles on this. Ebola zombie apocalypse. International Business Times even. Jumping in on the fun. Ebola zombies. I told you. It's all over. Here we go. Ebola zombies. Oh yeah. No zombie connection, guys. Don't worry about it. Every TV show, every movie, every commercial, CDC preparedness campaign, their own marketing campaign, zombie themed, FEMA zombie drills. Nope, it means nothing. It's all one big fat coincidence. Don't worry about it, guys. As a matter of fact, disregard everything I just told you. Okay? I mean, is there any more we need to see to realize there is something to this Ebola zombie connection, and we are not imagining things. Nobody's making this crap up. It's right in front of our face. Oh, and by the way, I want to show you guys this one last piece here. I'm on this site called Zombie Research Society, and basically it's a mainstream, zombie pop culture website. They're completely emotionally attached to the zombie craze and phenomenon, so they're not going to be seeing this with an open mind and seeing the obvious connections. But there's an article here that should be looked at because he pieces it all together and he still comes to the conclusion of demonizing us, calling us conspiracy nuts for pointing out the zombie agenda, the zombie conditioning that's going on. So really just disappointing, and just a sign of these zombie freaks, the conditioning. They can never come to grips and accept the fact that there is a zombie connection and something going on here, because they're so emotionally attached with this meme. But as you see here, in a case where reality is stranger than fiction, it has come to light that the U.S. National Institute of Health and Department of Health and Human Services are granting an exclusive license to XL Bio Incorporated in Minnesota to produce a vaccine to combat Ebola using a modified rabies virus. If this sounds vaguely familiar, let me refresh your memory. And here he says, it is actually a modified Ebola virus that sets off the entire apocalyptic chain reaction in the movie 28 Days Later, resulting in the rage virus that sees those infected go completely rabies, quote-unquote rabies berserk, and start killing and eating people. And right here, he says, as a believer in science and general skeptic of conspiracy theories, even I find this a little chilling. He then goes on to say, what does concern me, though, is widespread panic and the inevitable rushing to market of an untested vaccine, which may occur should Ebola break free from its shaky cage in Africa. It's interesting to read a skeptic's point of view on this, even after pointing all of these coincidences and connections. And here he says, we're already seeing this rushing to market scenario right now. The administering of the experimental drug ZMapp from biotech firm MAP to 2 American aid workers who recently fell sick with Ebola in Liberia. Yes, we know about this. ZMapp, of course, calling it ZMapp. Oh, what another coincidence. Z.
Zombie.
That doesn't at all suggest zombie. Zombie map. No. So he goes on to say he's a science and vaccine lover and enthusiast, and there's no way there's some kind of conspiracy here. Yeah, you know what? We'll see who the crazy ones are in due time, my friend, in due time. You want to go ahead and keep denying all of the evidence here and what they're doing, and believe in the Ebola scare, the fear-mongering that's taking place. You want to go ahead and trust your corporate-controlled mainstream media that is controlled by your government and corporations, 6 corporations who have an agenda to make billions off of the vaccines, to scare you into shitting your pants over Ebola and ISIS and the rest of it. Good luck with that. I told you guys this was coming, and lo and behold, we now have the media going to such great lengths to connect Ebola to zombies. The vaccine currently in trials to combat Ebola uses a modified rabies virus. Normally, a drug or vaccine goes through years of clinical trials before it is released. This vaccine will be released in only several months. Essentially, an untested vaccine will be unleashed onto the public. So, sound familiar? Yep, in the film 28 Days Later, an Ebola zombie film, it is a modified Ebola virus that sets off an apocalyptic chain reaction. The Ebola virus is used by the scientists as a carrier for the inhibitor, which mutated into rabies. Now we are seeing fake Ebola zombie stories in the media. Why do you think that is? What can go wrong, right? Wake up. Ebola vaccine equals zombie virus. So, and by the way, just to be clear, if you doubt for 1 second that a zombie virus scenario is not possible, then you just have a short attention span, or you've been living under a rock. If you think a mutated virus can occur and we can't turn into a zombie-like state or a rabid animal type state, you better wake up, because we can. We absolutely can. Now, for those of you unaware or you've forgotten, remember 2012, we had a string of real-life zombie cannibal attacks, starting with the one in Florida with Rudy Eugene, then many more after that. And bath salts was to blame for it, remember? But it later came out that bath salts wasn't even in his system. Instead, only marijuana was found. You can't get more ridiculous. Even his family and girlfriend said he was drugged, set up, that it wasn't him.
Toxicology results are back for the man who was shot and killed by police last month while chewing a homeless man's face. Authorities initially thought Rudy Eugene's behavior was so bizarre during the incident he was probably under the influence of bath salts, but the medical examiner now says that wasn't the case, and the only drug that was detected was marijuana. 65-year-old Ronald Popo needed surgery after the attack, and he remains in the hospital. Police have released few details about the incident, including what triggered it.
He's walking around with physical therapy. He's talking with us.
Surgeons described the progress of Ronald Popo, a homeless man who was the victim of a gruesome face-eating attack. They also released pictures of the 65-year-old, who remains in hospital following the attack on a bridge in downtown Miami, which show the extent of his injuries.
When Mr. Popo arrived, you really couldn't make out his identity or what his facial features were before the trauma.
In a second photo, Popo is seen walking with help from hospital staff. Police are investigating the attack, which involved 31-year-old Rudy Eugene, who was found naked and chewing on Popo's face.
And that started a string of apparently random cannibal attacks, including some in China.
Y'all still don't believe it?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that these incidents were not so random.
He is eating him. He is eating. Wow. I will be sure to do my due diligence and look this stuff up. CDC everywhere though, but it's not linked.
The CDC came out during that time and said, no, don't worry. You know, it's not a real thing, as these cannibal attacks were occurring. And then, of course, in outstanding hypocritical fashion, this is from Forbes, no, the CDC does not see an invasion of reanimated corpses as a realistic future scenario, but the Office of Emergency Preparedness does want you to be prepared for one. You don't say. You don't say. And of course, they come out with the whole zombie-themed preparedness campaign, zombie art and all, right? CDC approved. We all remember this. There's a page I was just on right
But they
here.
said it's not
I mean,
possible.
look at this. Preparedness 101, zombie pandemic. Look at the zombie art. It is just crazy. Just insanity. So yeah, sure, don't worry. But then they come out with this, and then they have zombie drills. So complete hypocrisy. And it's just complete programming. And that, my friends, is what this current Ebola scare campaign, PSYOP, is all about. Programming. And
Oh yeah, if you don't know what a PSYOP is, it's basically like a psychological experiment that the government does on the public just to see how they're going to react to something.
programming for the vaccine. So as you can see, this is quite real and quite possible, okay? And this clip I'm about to show you should be the absolute icing on the cake. They go out of their way to fake, hoax, and stage a scene where supposedly a dead Ebola victim comes back to life, resurrects, and it is so obviously scripted and staged.
I'll get to it.
And then they called within 1 hour.
Nice costume.
The burial team is here. This is a place right now where if you die of Ebola, they're very quick for you. If you're living and you need help, there's really nowhere to go. He's not dead. He's not dead. They were